Hey everybody, it's Robot here from Vespa Motorsport and ScooterWest.com. So here we got the latest iteration of the HPE Vespa GTS 300. Not just the standard HPE, we call it the HPE 2 here at Vespa Motorsport. So essentially the 2023 model year Vespa GTS pretty much came out simultaneously with the European models, which was very nice, because sometimes here in North America we're a year behind everything in Europe. So got my hands on number 1 and number 2, the first 2 imported Vespas here in the United States. This one is number 2, serial number 00001. It's already spoken for, so if you want this one, sorry. Just go on to the VespaUSA.com Vespa store website, put your pre-order in, and you'll be in the queue to get your own. So in the past, I just did a video that was not that exciting, pretty much me in front of the computer, speaking of all the different models, right when they introduced all the various models of the Vespa GTS 300 for 2023. This one specifically is a Super Sport trim. And the nice thing about it is it looks like a custom out of the box. So you buy this. Sadly, for ScooterWest.com, there's not much I can sell you. Don't worry, there's stuff I could sell you, but not as much as I could in the past. So just like my past reviews, this is more of a technical review. I'll do a proper riding review shortly. Do some GoPro footage, get out and ride it, compare it to the outgoing model. So look out for all these new videos I'll be doing specifically about the 2023 Vespa GTS 300. And I'll start from the front and move to the back. And I like to think it's all new, but in reality, it's just another GTS. Same thing, it's timeless. You know what else is timeless? A Porsche 911, a Jeep Wrangler. They just don't change them that much. Most people can't differentiate the models. It looks like a Vespa GTS, and that's why they retain their value so good, is because they don't change much. And you can see it's in the best color for this scooter, the Naranja Impulsivo. I pretty much butchered that word, but it's just impulsive orange, and it's so impulsive it makes you want to just buy it like right now. And that's unfortunately what I might have to do. I was gonna buy a white one, but I might have to buy this one like right now. Unfortunately, I gotta fight the sales manager for it. We're gonna flip a coin on the next video. So you can see it's got all the black trim. They got all new mirrors. Not compatible with the older style. They went to a 10mm threaded boss for the mirror, which is a great improvement. It's so easy to break them off right into old purchase. These are proper motorcycle size threaded stems for the mirrors. I do like how they do it. I like the new shape. The mirrors function really good. The ball joint works better than I've ever, I don't know, sounds kind of perverse, but better than it's ever worked on any other mirrors. The old ones are so stiff. This one's very smooth. I know it's all plastic. You know, the older lollipop round mirrors were all metal. You can see it's pretty much nearly identical headlight to the outgoing model. It has the same beam pattern and all that. They kind of changed that inner bar. It's kind of got that little plateau in there. You know, that little flat plateau, I look at that and it looks like it's calling me to take this headlight apart, which I know is very difficult, and put something on there. Maybe the word Vespa. Maybe I'll put a robot on that little like flat there. It's kind of just, it's like a little mirror that faces up at a 45-degree angle. I thought that was kind of an interesting little change. Moving on to the grips. I'll show you the other side that has more excitement going on shortly. They got these pretty cool looking grips. I saw them in the pictures. I really like the standard GTS grips. They're in gray. They did a lot of gray rubber, and it looks really good, but the black looks great. It's got the black rings, you know, on the inner part. If you go to the standard GTS, or if you go to the Super Tech, you get the chrome accents on the grip. But I've never seen one with like these kind of like, it looks like wound wire to me, but it's pretty cool. Of course, it has Vespa right here. All new bar end weights. They're little shorties. Mounts the same way, so you could put whatever you want. You could put the old ones, you could put the large top case style ones that add a lot of weight. You can put Rizoma bar end weights. The levers are drastically different. Unfortunately, they're not black, but easy enough to pull right off and get them powder coated. They do have a breakaway right here, so if the scooter drops, essentially you're not going to end up with a curl lever. You're just going to break this part away, and then you have a 2-finger lever. I think that's more or less like a safety feature, so you still have a lever remaining. It doesn't break off up into the master cylinder. The lever is not at all compatible with the prior models of GTS. They've always had the same levers all the way back from the GT200. The 2023, it's a completely different master cylinder, brand, design. Of course, hopefully the aftermarket comes through and comes out with some cool trick levers soon. But in the meantime, you can certainly get these powder coated black to match all the other trim. I'm not sure why they didn't do that. Moving on to the leg shield. This sheet metal, this is all metal, just like they've always been on Vespa. It's actually a completely new stamping. It looks pretty similar to the outgoing GTS 2022 HPE model, but they've retooled it to accommodate this new plastic trim that's painted in this piano black on the Super Sport trim. The standard GTS is going to be in chrome. If you have the Super Tech, it's got like a gunmetal finish trim. It's very, very similar to how the trim is installed and made on the Primavera and Sprint, which I'm a big fan of. Just brings the fit and finish up to the next level versus the old style trim that they've been using since the Vespa ET4 in 1996. It's essentially the same design trim that they've been using from 1996 to 2022. It was a very ingenious way to integrate a metal leg shield with a plastic glove box, but they kind of had to bring the times up with the GTS, and they certainly did that with this 2023 model. Moving on to the turn signals. Where's the screw? Just like the old school GTS turn signals. They're pretty similar shape, but they're certainly not at all compatible with the older models. But they come with these pretty awesome looking prismatic like running lights. They're kind of like little frosted like prismatic little elements in there. And then when you use the turn signals, it looks like there's 3 LED elements, and they work good. I was in traffic this evening, and I can see the flashers right off the car in front of me, the gloss of the car. I can tell they have a pretty nice beam that's attention getting. But in the meantime, there's not really anything available. But if you're looking to customize a scooter, you could certainly have these painted smoke. We may offer them on the Scooter West web store eventually when we can get our hands on them, or even get them wrapped in a tinting film to give it kind of that more all black look. Moving on to the horn cover. It's been restyled. It's got the imitation carbon fiber look to it. It looks cool. I'll have to give them like a little thumbs down on that. It'd be cool if at this price point, if it was real carbon fiber, or I don't know. I think just if they did it in gray or black, it would have been perfectly fine. It looks pretty cool, but I guess I'm a aficionado for real carbon fiber and know how it looks. This is the process that they do is called hydro dipping. So it's actually they essentially inkjet print a fake carbon fiber onto a bath of water, and then they dip this part into that bath of water, and the ink adheres to all the angles. It's a very, very neat process. In the past, I've done some wheels in the hydro dipped carbon fiber look, and it's pretty cool, the process itself. Moving on to the chevrons, or the horn grills, a much brighter orange. It's almost like a, what is that called? It's almost a fluorescent orange, and it kind of complements when you move down to the stripe stickers that they have right here. So it's a similar orange to that stripe there, and then you got the black stripe. Those are vinyl decals that are applied from the factory. One thing that was an eye catcher to me that I never picked up in the photos. This fender is completely redesigned. This fender crest, they actually mold in a detent into the fender that this fender crest sits in. So it's kind of unknown if all the aftermarket fender crests look proper or if they even mount up on this fender. Of course, I'll check that out, but this thing, I literally got this a couple hours ago, so it's pretty new to me. Moving on to one of the biggest changes that they have for the 2023. It's, other than the 2015 and 2016 models, this is the first time they radically re-engineered the classic Vespa suspension system. So it's a trailing link suspension that's just been found on the Vespa, I don't know, since its interception in 1946. So ironically, this new suspension system is very similar to what they did on the Bajaj Cheetah scooter in the early 2000s. Those scooters are long gone. They no longer manufacture, and they haven't done that for a while. But it was a pretty ingenious system where they had an extra link. So you got the trailing link, you have this extra anti-dive link, and they did a very nice job. It looks like it's a cast steel anti-dive link, and it's kind of hidden behind the suspension member. And you got this carrier that's for the front brake caliper. The front brake caliper is no longer a Gurmika or a Hingtong, which is the prior suppliers. It's made by Nissan, which is the OEM supplier for most Hondas. So the pads probably are similar to what many Honda motorcycles use. They're ironically exact same part number as the brake pads found on the Piaggio Liberty, and they work good. I mean, I think this is a high quality caliper. It's going to give a very nice service life. It does use a slightly different pad. Moving on to the wheels, you have a new style wheel, and I'll show you that shortly. City Grip tires, City Grip 2s, excuse me. You got the decals on the wheels with this Super Sport trim. So moving on to the wheel, it's fairly similar to the Primavera, the current Primavera wheel, but it is different. I like it. I was not too much of a fan of the 2021, 2022 Vespa wheel that kind of looks like a flower. And then 2020s, 2019 and prior, they've had the same wheel all the way back to 2005 with the GT200. Just the basic 5-spoke. Very classic wheel design, but it's getting a little dated. I like this design. It's pretty nice. You can certainly get custom with it, maybe paint these inner rings, give it a pretty cool look. That might be something I would want to do. But you could certainly swap it for other rims. They haven't really changed how they mount. It's all the same mounting hardware, same width and all that. So moving on to the inner glove box and the inner leg shield. So what's different here? Well, the glove box is completely redesigned to match up with this new trim. You can see the fit and finish is really, really nice right here. They kind of restyle that. It's got like a new radiator exit style right here. And open up the glove box. I'll show you some things that have changed. It's your key fob. So the cool thing in here is it's much larger now. They did get rid of that nice slot. There's a little box that's found on the old models where your toolkit would go right in. But the size is much more generous. You could actually put a full-size smartphone in there now. The old one was so tight you could barely put your wallet in there, but now you could put put a wallet in there on one side, put a large phone, actually put an extra set of gloves. It kind of goes back in there pretty far. I can get my whole fist in there. So it's much more useful. Ever since they added ABS to the scooters, you pretty much lost this whole entire side, the left side of the glove box, but they definitely increased the size. But every single part of this glove box, with the exception of the door, it looks identical, has been redesigned, including this inner piece. It does have a bag hook that's much different than the outgoing model. It's kind of the rectangular shape. It kind of is a carryover from many of the Piaggio products. It's kind of nice pebble grain texture. It looks, even though it's plastic, it looks to be higher quality than the outgoing plastic round hook that was found on it. And of course, I'm sure the aftermarket shortly will have a metal replacement hook. So both these knee pads do come off. The right side reveals your coolant reservoir where you can top off the coolant. The left side opens up. The reveal pretty much nothing other than the keyless module that, you know, it's just a module mounted back there, all protected. You can't really get access to it, but there's no way to drill a hole and put a USB outlet or anything right there, any switches. Maybe a little bit of room at the very top. Of course, I'll figure that out soon, which you can do. So looking in the glove box, you do have the manual release for the seat. So if your battery's dead, you can get access to the seat. This little cover right here, it covers all your fuses and the bank of micro relays. So it's all nicely housed right here. You got your USB charger, so you can keep your phone topped off in the glove box. Got a gasket all the way around there, so if you're riding in the rain, it's going to keep it fairly dry in there, and that just closes right up. Moving down here, you got a new badge for the Super Sport. This is S300. It kind of got this new little flat here. I didn't really catch on to this until I saw this scooter in person. Like a neat little flat. And they moved the VIN plate over to the right side, a little different than what they've done in the past, where there's enough room right in the center. You got these god-awful stickers that could be easily removed. I'm not going to remove them. Just telling you, if you mess with the battery, you might die. If you don't ride this scooter with a helmet or eye protection, you might die. And don't do drugs or alcohol. Very important advice. So moving on to the floorboard. It looks fairly similar to the old outgoing floorboard. I'm pretty certain it's a different part number because it's been retooled to work with this new plastic trim. And this trim looks to be 4 pieces. You get the left and the right side of the floorboard, and then there's a seam right about here, and you get the upper parts. And the idea of this trim, I do like how it protrudes much more. So if the scooter does tip over, I think you're gonna hit the trim before you hit any of the bodywork. You may still hit the cowl. I'm not gonna drop the scooter to figure it out, but I think that's an improvement. If the trim can take the brunt of a tip over, that's always gonna be a good thing because that's a less costly part to replace in the event of a tip over. Moving on to the passenger foot pegs. Looks like the standard foot peg extenders will work just fine with these, pretty much unchanged. I'm sure some people that ride with a passenger all the time were hoping they would drastically re-engineer this part so it's more comfortable for your passenger, but they've left those pretty much unchanged. And of course, you get the standard GTS model, those are going to be silver, and I think I spoke that they would be chrome. I think I saw photos of them chrome, but they're just silver, just like the outgoing model. So continuing to move backwards, we're gonna get back to the fun stuff, which is the keyless, the switches, and the new instruments on it. But you got a new redesigned seat. Unfortunately, it's completely compatible with the 2020, actually 2015 through 2022 models, the same seat. I was hoping they would have a spring load on it, but it opens right up. Pretty much the same design. They have the whole for a seat cover, it doesn't include the seat cover. The gasket that seals the underseat bucket, the generously sized underseat bucket that's in here, and it reveals the engine and many of the components under there. Move into the back, it's pretty much the same fuel tank as they've had in the prior models, holds about 2 gallons. And I do notice there's a little pressure. They got a completely new emission system because this is a Euro 5 compliant, which exceeds the emission standards for the United States. So it's got I think it's got 2 catalytic converters. It's got different electronics to control all the fuel injection, and the evaporative emissions, which captures the vapors from the fuel tanks, completely re-engineered versus the outgoing Vespa GTS. But that's pretty much, some of the internal changes. It's all for the good. You don't want to really, anything you do to breathe better air. I think I'm kind of all for that. People tampering with emission systems, I don't know why you'd want to even do that in this day of age. So the sheet metal for the cowls, I think that's truly unchanged from the outgoing model. Pretty much the same tooling, but when it comes to the leg shield and, as I like to call it, the underbelly or the rocker panel section of the frame, that's all been retooled for the 2023 model. They got the cool stripes for the Super Sport with that same fluorescent yellow and the black carried through, new badges. And these side skirts are completely redesigned. And look out for the next video because I'm going to show you how to remove them. And it's all for the good because they're much easier to remove. And they also accomplish pretty much hiding all the fasteners. You don't see any fasteners. It just gives it a very, very clean look. Moving on to the turn signals, all LED. And just like the fronts, or just like a Primavera or Sprint front turn signal, there's no exposed fasteners. It gives it a really clean look. It just brings the fit and finish up a notch by not having a screw right here to remove the lens. So you gotta, if you want to remove that, there's a fastener from the back that takes it off. I think it's just a really nice touch, gives it a very clean look. Moving on to the taillight, I really do like the new taillight. At first I was had preference to the 2020 style taillight, but this thing looks cool. I mean, it's got like it looks like neon glow tubes in there, and then the center section is the brake light itself and an integral reflector in there as well. Being a Super Sport trim, you get the black rim for the taillight, and you also have the black grab rail. So moving on to the rear mud flap, it actually goes a little further down. I think it is possible to hack it and then move all this up if you wanted to. Of course, I'll give that a shot in a later video. But you could put a larger license frame. The old model, they had it so far up against the license light that you couldn't even put the larger license frames around your US style plate. If you're wondering about this license frame, this is a very custom one that we do at Vespa Motorsports, our standard metal license frame. It's license frame VM-BK. It's a custom powder coated license frame. Kind of gives you an incognito look while shamelessly promoting Vespa Motorsport here. Moving on to the muffler, kind of looks like the tried and true Vespa GTS muffler, but the header has been completely re-engineered, and I knew about that header design. It was found on the Euro 5 GTS about 2 years ago, and it's all for the good. The header's much longer now, and they have the header clamp right here, and I think that puts much less strain on the studs on the cylinder head, and also your exhaust gasket's going to last much longer because pretty much all the Piaggio designs use a similar style, and the exhaust gasket typically will give you a much longer life. So it's easier to remove the muffler. It's got a longer header, kind of just a new re-engineered version of the pipe. Internally, the motor is pretty much unchanged from the 2022 model internally. But the electronics make it a cleaner burning motor along with a bigger catalytic converters in the pipe and such. So the handlebars and everything right here has been completely redesigned from the outgoing model. They have an all-new speedometer. It looks like the classic Vespa speedometer. I do like the nice analog speed indication. You got the miles on the outside, kilometers on the inside. You got some of the idiot lights that check engine light, ABS, oil. Motor's not started, that's why those are on. And you have a nice two-tone LCD panel. I like how this looks. The contrast is so good. And I rode this around at night. Even on the brightest setting, it has 3 stages of brightness. It was not distracting, very, very easy to read. Rode around a little bit in the daylight. The contrast is really, really good for this LCD. You know, especially comparing it to the old small ones that are kind of like look like the old Casio calculator or watch, or even the much higher end ones that are a full color LCD that looks more like a mobile phone. Those ones sometimes can be difficult to read in certain environments, especially during bright light. It looks really techy. You got a proper fuel gauge with the bar segments. It's also got a low fuel indicator when you're on your reserve. The best part of this is you have multi-function indication right there. You get your real-time miles per gallon. You can get your miles of range. It's predicting about 152 miles of range. Just based on my 4 miles of riding, obviously that gets much more accurate the more you ride, because the calculation in the computer is based on your prior riding habits and your miles per gallon. If you're riding it really hard, obviously your range is going to go down. If you ride it very, very easy, I could see you getting close to 200 miles of range out of a fuel tank. Your volts, it's got a proper voltmeter on there. And then you get your menu. So you get that 2-line alphanumeric dash. You could change your language. You set the clock. It is a 24-hour clock. Units for your speed, your odometer, Fahrenheit, Celsius, miles per gallon, and so on. You could pair your phone. It's currently paired to my phone on the Super Sport model, the standard GTS, and then you could get several different levels of the backlight. So maybe you just want it to be much dimmer, so it dims out the whole dash. And of course, that's very easy to read at night. Might be not as easy to read in the daytime, but you know, definitely not distracting at all if you have it on that lowest brightness setting. So, and it's all accessed through this little joystick that's right here. So there's, you know, the a little joystick right here that changes all that, the settings, and pretty much left and right, left controls everything in that little field right there, right controls everything in that field when you're in the standard mode. And if it's paired to a phone, up and down will, you know, change the volume and so on, do other functions that have to do with when your phone's paired to the scooter along with a Bluetooth headset. And of course I'll cover that in the future. I need to play with it, get experience with it. I can attest it finally pairs really quickly to a phone. They've made some improvements versus the prior models I kind of shun just because the performance isn't so good on them. And if you go to this side, you could see your trip time for 4 miles, 15 minutes. You could hold it and reset those 2 trip odometers. And there's also your total miles and the time, along with lots of indicators. I think this is the battery level of your mobile phone. It actually syncs that. There's some other indications as well. So let's move on to the switchgear. All new switchgear, very, very similar to what you find on the Primavera and Sprint. And they've proven to be much more reliable than the old ones. You can turn the ASR system off. You just hold that. It tells you ASR off. Very easy to read and understand how that function works. The ASR being the traction control system of it. Of course, you're going to get better performance with the traction control off, but obviously that's a safety system that you're disabling. So just keep that in mind. Nice easy access for popping the seat. You just push that button and it opens the seat, unlatches the seat. Of course, you can't push that button when the scooter's all locked up. Moving on to the left side, you got the high beam, low beam. You can flash it. Your joystick for controlling the functions in the dash. You got your turn signals, and it's push to cancel, and a horn. And to start the scooter, make sure it's in the run position. They do have a side stand, just like the outgoing model, and it tells you when the side stand's down on the dash. And it pretty much, anytime you see that round circle, which is the crank over, and there's an X to it, shows you that one of your interlocks is not on to start the scooter. So if you have the run switch on run, kickstand up, you'll be able to pull a brake and push the start button. It comes right to life. Now let's go on to the keyless system. So typically you have this key fob in your pocket. It's kind of a new shape, it says Vespa on it. Go ahead and shut the motor off. You can do that with a kill switch, or you just do it with that. It kind of does this little shutdown sequence. You know what I do like? Is you shut the scooter off and the headlight stays on for a little while. It's a very nice feature that's found on many, many cars, kind of the light the garage or light the way, and it has a timeout that eventually will shut off. I think it's just a really nice touch. It's got the alphanumeric screen down there that gives you messages if you can start the scooter, if the battery's going low, or different error messages will come up on there. So it's much easier to read versus a little indicator light that you may not know what it is. To turn it on, you just have the key fob in your pocket, give it a push, and it says welcome, and you're able to turn the ignition on. And maybe you're done with the scooter, you want to lock the steering, which is the first defense to secure your scooter, so you just turn it all the way to that mode. And if you want to lock immediately, you can push the button and it electronically locks it. And if the key fob's far enough away, you won't be able to turn this. It's actually completely locked. You can't open the seat if the fob's within range. But it's pretty much locked down, and once you walk away from the scooter, it's fully secure with the steering lock. And to unlock it, make sure the fob's close by, give it a push, turn it to the off position or to the run, and it's ready to go. If you don't have the fob in your hand, or if you disable the fob, I'll show you how that, so you see that little green light right there? If you hold the top button and then push the bottom button, it goes to a red mode, which it pretty much puts the fob, it puts it in a shutdown state. So if you're wondering why you can't turn the scooter on, it says can't detect the key. But there's always a backup. If you waterlog this little fob or ruined it or destroyed it, there's still a RFID chip in there. So you just put it right up against the glove box and just go ahead and push the ignition, and it will allow you to turn on the scooter even with no electricity in this fob. And don't worry, there's one more backup, and I'll show you that next. So you could turn the scooter on even if the fob wasn't working. But to re-enable the fob so it works, we'll go ahead and push that button and put it back into green mode, which sets it to where it will function again. And you're wondering what these two buttons do? So you push that button, hold it, and it will pop your seat. And this button will flash your lights, the kind of, so pretty much a bike finder, as I like to call it. So you could find the scooter. If you're in a sea of a bunch of other GTSs, it'll flash your lights and make it easy to find. So the second key, you may ask, you can order more fobs. Unfortunately, they need to be dealer programmed. So the second key that's included with the scooter looks like this. It's a tiny little fob. It's completely waterproof. There's no battery in it, so it doesn't have the buttons. The way this one works is maybe you want to go surfing and you keep it on you somehow. You go, it can completely get wet. It's not going to hurt it. And when you want to start the scooter, say you don't have this, we'll put that away so it doesn't detect it. So the way you use this little key fob is you put this right in front of this little RFID symbol, the Piaggio symbol right there, and give it a push. And there you go. So that's how you can unlock the scooter. And once you unlock the scooter and turn the ignition on, you can put that back in your pocket or wherever. Probably don't want to put it in the glove box or underneath the seat at that point. Another good thing is, say you're traveling with a scooter cross country, and you can hide this on the scooter, because the only way it works is if it's right in front of this little RFID detector right here. Maybe hide it, zip tie up underneath the frame somewhere. So if you're in a pinch where you lose the key fob, you got a backup. Well, thanks for making it through that very long, lengthy discussion about the new GTS. Now that I actually physically have one in my hands and can tell you everything I know about it, with having one around just for a few hours and studying the parts diagrams and what's been on the web, I actually really have one here, so it's pretty exciting. Of course, there's probably more to be known about this, and don't worry, I'll continue to do my research. I'll be, once I get my hands on one, what do I do best here? I take it apart. And I'll be able to tell you everything about it. Everything that fits. We have some new Acropovic pipes that fit specifically this new model in stock at Vespa Motorsport and ScooterWest.com, both in black and titanium. We refer to this as the HPE 2 because there's so much stuff that's different. Mirrors, levers, for instance, from the old ones don't fit this one. We're currently updating all our fitment charts on our Vespa Scooter West website, so you know exactly what you can get that will fit your new GTS 300 2023 model or later. Until next time, it's Robot here from Vespa Motorsport. And don't worry, I'm coming out with more videos. Just continue subscribing to the Vespa Motorsport YouTube channel and turn on the notifications. And you'll see weekly videos. And I'll tell you everything I can tell you about the new Vespa GTS 300. See you on the next one. Robot here.